So today we're going to be starting off with a semi-new thing, and new is the game is old, the concept's new on the channel. Well, to start it off, this is post-commentary over the video that's already there, and I just woke up like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, we're going to be doing the story mode of Assetto Corsa, and to go ahead and get the rules set up, I'm not allowed to change the tune of the cars, because that's not what would happen in real life. I'm not supposed to drift on purpose unless it calls for that. I started off, we got a little, like, well, I'm guessing the name is Time Trial, I guess. Starting off into the first corner, just getting a feel for how the car runs onto the first lap. I also got a dog with me, not in the car, but in real life. Yeah, I know y'all jealous. I'm not very experienced with front-wheel drive cars, so you'll realize that here in a minute. Well, I'm sure you've already had from the amount of understeer I've had so far. But I don't really I don't really trust trying to do left foot braking in a car like this. So I just kind of rely on my right foot to keep it steady. Going with the earliest possible racing line for braking whenever I need to on the first lap. Maybe pushing it a bit farther later on, but still like that. Now it says like an hour-long video, so I'm gonna have to do like an hour-long commentary. So yeah, it was supposed to be like 30 minutes long, but yeah, I forgot to set a timer, and I'm dumb. So yeah. I am gonna end up like diving into some positions later on, but just keep in mind I wouldn't really do that in a real online race. At least not like how aggressively I'm doing it on here. Coming in with the same movement, trying to get used to the car's reaction to throttle input. Trying to follow the grip line, because, well, it's useful whenever you're learning how to do a track at first. Going in a bit too fast. Once again, still getting used to the car's limits, how much it can handle. That little right turn bump in the middle there, that's going to prove to be pretty annoying later on. Shifting down a bit too late there. Lost a lot of time in that corner. Pushing the car, and realized I could make a corner going like that, so that's what I kept doing, or at least I tried to keep doing. Trying to be able to push the car so I can hit that outer bump. I managed to do it. got in with an early shift, no throttle input till right after to try to avoid as much understeer as possible. And when you're on no throttle and you're starting to lose control of the car, and well, hitting the throttle will make you lose control of the car, there's a little grace period where the power is coming in where you have a lot more control of the car. So sometimes it's better just to feather the throttle and try to get that in mid-corner if you're losing. Like there, it was a lot easier than just letting the understeer ride me into the dirt. You'll see me do that later on. I don't exactly remember what car number anyway it was, because I'm not a big fan of a bars. But you know, they drive relatively well in this game. And that's the end of the first one. Got 5,000 points. That's a good bit above what I needed to be able to win the race, but yeah. Go ahead, exit for this one. As you can see, I have played the career mode before, but I wasn't able to get too far because I actually whenever I played career mode, I had controller, and controller makes it a lot harder to control cars than a wheel. Like it or not, it does, in my opinion anyway. So this will be the first race that I've tried, and this will be the first attempt at this race. Yay. So you're gonna see how bad it goes at first, and there's like a restart in between or so that really I come back and do pretty well on. You know, gotta have that perfect seating, so you look like you're riding so far back in the car that if you got hit through an accident, you would fly out the front grille. I braked too early onto that corner. I braked too hard. With a really aggressive line, I managed to take a position up on the pole, so I went from 8th to 7th. Coming in a bit too aggressive again, coming in with that body shift over to the right to try to be able to take the inside from him. Keep going under the full throttle. Halfway through I realized that I don't have enough time to do this, so I back out early. Just to brake a bit early and take the inside of the corner. Going back out, full throttle. Now I realize I'm not going to be able to catch up till I get back to the middle turn in the track. Going for too aggressive of the turn. Got overtaken again. Go for an overtake, which, as far as I remember, wasn't very well. It worked, but it's not something you would normally do on the line. At least not preferably. That's the bumper that I was talking about, knocked me right out of the track. Might as well have just restarted there, because, well, that's a race loss. Second lap in, you're still on Still in last place. Yeah, you ain't getting anywhere in the totem. Took off with a really good start. Actually, not really a really good start, but like a mess start. That's why it was worth it. Holding off on the brakes, braking whenever they're braking. Really coming in right into the middle, threading it. Being really careful here. At the same time, not letting it back down. Braking a bit early, just so you don't just so I don't oversteer or understeer. Just because it is a front-wheel drive car, oversteering is still a possibility. Just a small tap there. An accidental tap, anyway. Getting a bit too overconfident and aggressive, realizing that, whoa, I can drive. Because normally I'm not too good at races because I'm not the most aggressive racer. So whenever something like this actually does happen, it's pretty fun. Not to mention that I don't get to race a lot of people who are pretty equal. That's partly because we never really choose the same car. So the AI actually gave me a challenge, and that was pretty fun. At this point, I'm realizing I'm not going to be able to get into first place because, well, I'm not that good at driving a Fiat. So I go for the risk, cut through while he's braking, go for third. It was a really quick move, but it was really instincts whenever I broke it down to it because, well, it happened so quick I wasn't even ready. I was like, oh, he's on the outside. Oh, he's braking. Well, that's not right. And then, whew, third place. And now I'm more focused on defending my position than anything else, trying to make sure I got some consistent lap times. At that point, just saw my name there. I was like, oh yeah, I got this. Taking more careful onto these ones, you know, trying to stay off of the big bumps. Not trying to take such an aggressive line onto the track. Coming into the last final stretch, it's pretty much over then. Race is done. And I came in third place. Come back to the replay to kind of get an outside view of what I did during the race. To show the parts that were kind of, well, rude and dirty in a real online race. Just trying to get to the part here. Yep, there it is. Starting off, there I am in the back, coming out. And just racing through, you know. Every car looks the same here, so yeah. But as you can see quickly, I come in through the middle here. Pushing through the crowd, me and the red one are kind of meh. I'm more on the outside line, coming in. Coming in through the middle. Just a little bump there, not on purpose. Coming in on the front bumper, left bumper. overtake there. That middle corner was really the one where I'd be able to overtake everybody, so I got pretty used to it. And yeah, that was pretty much everything there, I guess. So it'll be on to the next race in the actual series of the No Voice Series 1, you know, or Novice. I prefer No Voice. Or we could just sit here on the title screen. Thanks, me. Alright, let's get some work done. Oh yeah, I was reading the story behind it. You know, it's pretty cool. It actually sets up situations quite well. Uh, by quite well, I mean pretty meh. Now here in a minute, I'm gonna have to walk away from the game for a second to go do stuff in real life, so the video is gonna like fade up to a new part like soon after this starts. Just going through to make sure traction control isn't a thing. Even in the GT3 races, I'm not going to use the traction control unless I actually have to, because I really don't like the traction control, even though the cars are made for it. You know? Kind of rubbing it up, trying to get a feel for where I need to let the throttle engage. Just let it drop and boop. And then boom, Back to the Future. Getting another restart just to save time. And getting ready, dropping it, and then boom. This is really distracting in a way, because I am using a car that well, I am using a wheel, the T80. 488 GTB wheel. And yeah, it does get a bit distracting because that wheel does have paddle shifters on it, and seeing the actual character shift with a stick can be a bit strange. Getting used to the whole layout of the track. This car is a lot like a bigger Fiat, so yeah. I wasn't too worried about it. It's a pretty long straight, just kind of flooring it to see what I could do before this whole braking part came up. And this part right here is probably the part that gave me the most trouble on this track. Later on anyway. Right now I'm just like, yeah, I can drive through this. I wasn't really thinking about racing the track at this point, just like, oh, well, I just need to meet the time requirements. And as long as my screen's not fading, I'm doing well. I actually did do a pretty good on this one too, if this is the right run of this time. It's been like 20 minutes in. I'm actually like, wow, this flew by. It doesn't actually feel like 20 minutes, it feels like 10. Still a long time, but yeah. So coming into this corner, practicing the same thing I did for the last one with the dive bomb kind of thing. The reason why I started doing this is I've been watching a YouTuber that actually does real life driving for in a Ferrari, a GT car that he does not own. So yeah. So I've kind of wanted to try this because, well, I mean, that's what I want to do anyway. and it's a pretty realistic thing where you start out with with cars that you don't own to build trust with the company that, well, you don't own or have any like relationship with, and you got to build trust with them to be able to do stuff for them. One thing that is pretty apparent in Assetto Corsa, compared to what I saw out there as well, the way I was racing is I kind of just avoided first gear like it was like poison or something. But in real life GT3 or just GT, the first gear isn't something bad. Like, you don't need to avoid first gear. It's good for whenever you need more steering as well. Yeah. It's not really that bad of a thing whenever you need it. But, yeah, you don't always need first gear. Another thing is that the way that people drive is a lot different. If you bump somebody in, like, a racing game, they're gonna cuss you out. But if you, like, I'm talking about, like, just a little bit of bump, something that would, like, push somebody a bit. But if you do that in real life, I mean, as long as you don't damage their car, I mean, a lot of the times they're not going to be that mad, just not that mad. Maybe a bit upset that you, like, maybe knocked them out of position a bit, but, it's not really that big of a problem whenever it comes to the end of the day, as long as you don't damage the car. Because if you damage the car, we're talking about like a $700,000, I mean, not $700,000, like a $70,000 car, If you're lucky, maybe like a $10,000 car that you're racing against, This race is pretty much the same as the Fiats. There's nothing really interesting going on until the actual race where I'm going against other cars. At this point, I've gotten pretty used to how front-wheel drive feels to drive. I'm still not using the left foot braking for the sake of, well, I'm not very experienced with that, and I don't really want to use a technique I don't know how to use all that well without practicing it. A lot of turning in Assetto Corsa and real life, well, whenever you start out, is all guessing how much you need to turn. But once you get used to doing a few turns, well, a lot of turns are all the same, except whenever you're on Laguna Seca, where they got that big, like, drop curve between the turns, where you go up, then there's a down left that leads into a right. We'll eventually get to Laguna Seca, and you'll see what I mean, but unless you're doing something like that, a lot of turns are a lot of the same, and a lot of tracks are a lot of the same. They're a lot of fun, but, well, my favorite track is Nordschleife for a reason. But if I have to pick a short track, I'd have to say Laguna Seca would probably be my favorite. Coming in with a bit too much throttle, coming right off the track, going into the pre-straight here. You would know how fast I'm going, because from where I'm standing right now, in the editing thing on my PlayStation 4, well, I can't really see any, like, fine details of how fast I'm going. But I can tell I just went too fast. Shifting down. Going over the bump, something that you shouldn't try to do too much. But it's a good way to take a really tight line. Going into the grass there, that'd be more of a penalty than anything. And then that's done. Now, at this point, I'm pretty sure I can handle driving in a race with this car. But, yeah. I do think that I did had to restart twice in this race. Just because I got too carried away and wasn't watching the cars in front of me to see how they were taking the corners. Once again, staying with the stock tune of this car. Setting back the camera to my liking so I can drive better. Going with a bit of that grass, going into that first corner, just making a bit of a rough move. I end up tapping a few Fiats along the way to passing them. Coming in, taking the same way I normally do, braking because I saw the guy coming in from the left. Going a bit slow, so I did end up bumping him, trying to avoid him as much as possible. I'm keeping my aggressive line, because, well, that's how people race online with aggressive lines. If you're too slow, you end up getting bumped, and that's just what ends up happening in an online race. Unfortunately. I tried to avoid doing that. Well, a computer doesn't know to move out of the way whenever it's too slow. Since I'm going against computers, I'm not just going to give it up, because, well, they're not going to send me an angry text like, oh, you suck, oh, blah, 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 you know. But that doesn't mean I'm just gonna pit maneuver everybody in sight to be able to take their position. No, I'd be dumb. Going too late into this corner, braking, really just losing the race there. So that's the first restart. Up into there, trying to get that apex. Pretty sure I went over onto the grass for that last corner, trying to keep that middle open so I could rush in there like this. Trying to avoid the guy on the outside. Taking the inside on that corner isn't the smartest choice. Once again, trying to get away from him. Really, he was putting me into awkward positions. So I got a strip slipstream off of them and slingshot it past. Really pushing it to 5th gear onto this corner, found like that's the easiest way to take it. Coming onto the bump, exiting, trying to stay off the rubber, the bumper. Coming in a bit too fast on this corner, as you can hear. Taking it a little bit too sharp there with my steering, giving me a bit of understeer. Coming in a little bit of throttle to counteract that understeer that it was trying to get me. A little bit of late braking ended up making me hit him, but it was full brake trying to stop my car. Just a lot heavier than that car. Gear so I can steer better. Looking down the map for a minute, I realized how far ahead I was, so I got a bit overconfident. Making me understeer into that inside position of that corner there. Coming in here, lost a bit of time because I got a bit too overconfident with the throttle. So I'm going to just try to make up some time, catching up on them because, well, I'm still in the slipstream. So I exit the slipstream early and go for a pass, really pushing it there because, well, didn't have really a lot of time to make a pass. And that's when I realized that there was a BMW in the front of the pack, and I was like, uh-oh. Got a lot of pull on the straightaways that I don't really have, so I kind of come in with the later braking, or at least more or less reckless braking to oversimplify it, and kind of come in for the inside trick here, pulling a lot of space, taking it a bit too sharp there, hitting over a bumper, shifting with the throttle fully engaged, giving me a bit of understeer out to the outside. But too fast again, so I calm it down, shift on the first, around this corner, see him in my rear view, and I'm like, uh-oh, get him with that shake and bake real quick, you know, good old Ricky Bobby style, you know. Watch him in my left rear view, watch him in the middle rear view. Losing it every time I go over there. It's been 30 minutes into the video, and yeah. I just remembered this. I don't think this was the one I just restarted twice on. I think it was the race after this. But this is a 5-lap race, so it's a pretty good practice for the car that you are driving during this time, because, well, normally you don't have an excuse to drive 5 laps and have to constantly keep up the fence or keep constant lap times or anything like that, because usually whenever you get in front, it's because the people behind you are just, they aren't that good. But with computers, they hardly ever make mistakes like I did during this race. So their lap times are always pretty constant, and it's a bit scary having to try to compete with them. But in a game like this, where there's no real like rubber banding or anything, you're just scared. Like, the only reason you should be afraid is if one of them gets into your slipstream. But even then, as they're passing you, I'm sure you can be able to get them back with it. It'll just take a minute. Coming in with too tight of a turn, just kind of lose it. BMW passes, I'm back onto the track. My tires are dirty, so they don't really want to work right. You immediately feel that as you enter that next corner. You immediately feel how much traction you lost on your tires from that one thing. As I'm making these corners, I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be the last lap. I gotta do something quick. I gotta go with something really aggressive. Well, I'm pretty sure that is what I end up having to do, which is unfortunately what happens. Just a slight bump there, you know. Go for the inside line. It's not really quite enough to be able to take them over. Really just pushing it on the outside there and trying to be able to pass. Watching that red arrow, not enough time to be able to get past him with all my speed, so I'm kind of just relying on this exit here to be able to get me away from him. And just like that, I'm back in the first place. Having to shift down because I went too fast. Really pulling a bit more distance onto this track, hitting the brake a bit more early to be more careful, not taking the line as sharp, just kind of hitting it like that, letting go of the gas to kind of let the rear end take over for a minute, hitting the brake. I realized I went a bit too fast in that corner, coming in, letting the body roll kind of do something for the car, just woof, letting the rear end kind of steer us too. And that was the end of the race. And then that's just that with that race. Exiting onto the next one. This is, I think, the one that gave me a lot of the trouble that I did have. Just because of the fact that I was driving so many front-wheel drive cars that a rear-wheel drive car like the E30 would just be a bit strange. Not to mention that it was a step 1, so it controlled a bit better. Not even bothering with the traction control settings in this car because, well, they don't exist. Yeah, they don't even exist in this kind of thing. Letting go of the gas early, shifting up, and then boof. You're gonna immediately see how unfamiliar I am with the with rear-wheel drive after doing all this into this first corner where I kind of treat it like it is a front-wheel drive, trying to avoid understeer, and then I end up getting some snap oversteer because of that. Taking this corner, expecting it to be a bit easier to control, but losing it immediately, going to the outside because of how sharp I took it. Coming into this corner, really pushing those front tires to be able to do something, but yeah, kind of just making the car go as far as it wants to go on speed wise. I know that the last car made it to 5th gear before then, but I really don't know what this car can do, so I'm not planning on pushing that. Realize that the treads here for the braking aren't here anymore. So well, actually I don't realize that this lap. You'll see what happens because I realized that the braking, the treads there were gone. I was like, alright, I'll just rely on these to help me out for a minute. And, well, you'll see how that goes. Once I realize that they're not there anymore. Just lost it right there, so another restart, unfortunately. There is like 10 minutes left of this video. Or like 9.5 actually, but yeah. There you go, hitting that throttle, you know. Once again, still getting used to the rear-wheel drive of this car again. This is the first car I ever drove on this channel anyway. It had nothing to do with the story mode, but yeah. You know, just a bit of faith in a car like this, you know, it never hurts you. You know, unless you're putting faith into a Z4, then it will hurt. It will hurt a lot, because as soon as you hit that first corner, you try to get in some light braking and then boom, snap oversteer. But if you can use that snap oversteer and get rid of all the engine damage it does to itself, it's a pretty good drift car. I believe this is the second restart I did, maybe. No, I didn't. I just went back to the track and kept driving. Kind of letting a bit of the car just roll into each corner with the body roll. It's not that much weight carried over, but it's just enough to make the front end want to turn in more. And a bit of sliding of the rear tires can make the turns a lot easier to go through. But as the rule I said before is, I'll try not to drift unless it wants me to. So as little drifting as possible. First gear, trying to keep it tight on this line, going out with a bit of snap, really biting back on me for doing stuff like that. Coming out of this corner, I realized that second gear is usually pretty safe because of how high the RPMs are in this car. This is already past the part where I realized that the tire treads were gone. I mean, where you'd brake. If you look onto the last lap, you'd see where I got like confused. You'll see where I did go up the track. My tires were starting to free up a bit with some bit of oversteer, so I wasn't really trying to push them mid-corner, but I was on the exit of the corner, which was a reason why there's a lot of snap oversteer, but I'd rather oversteer than understeer, you know? And that is another penalty charge for this. There's 5.5 seconds left. There's nothing really to talk about at this point other than the dumb mistakes I made, like going into the grass there. taking that corner too sharp and letting that rear end slide out a bit like that to be able to turn it into the next one without drifting. But a slide there did eventually happen. That's a bit late of braking in my opinion, but it worked, so I'm not going to really judge it too well. I did turn off the HUD UI because, well, I do drive a bit better whenever that's turned off. It's easier to concentrate, I guess. Bit of oversteer and understeer mixed in that corner. That was mainly understeer. Trying to counteract that oversteer with some understeer of my own. Coming in, just pushing the car, trying to get as far as I can before I just die. Pushing the turning more than I am the throttle, which is causing a lot of that understeer. Take this corner like I do to overtake people. Really just stretching at this point, getting a bit too overexcited. But I'm still taking the track really well. Compared to how I started. I'd say the worst part about this video is that people are going to see the first lap of each try, and they're just going to assume that I am a really bad driver in this game, because well, I am a pretty mad driver. I do require some amount of pre-run up, just a little bit of a warm up to be able to drive on a track like this. And having to drive on a track like this was a thing that I wasn't used to because, well, normally online this track is used for a drag racing spot because it's really long, straight, and how short it is, so it's really just like that compared to all this stuff that normally doesn't happen on this track. So I didn't really know what I could do for this, not to mention that if I do anything on this track, it's normally drifting. So having an actual race was a bit awkward for me. I don't know how much time I have left, and that's another thing that's useful whenever you're driving, so you can keep a bit more calm. So you can get excited, you can get angry, but if you get nervous, you're doomed. Because, well, you can control your anger, you can control your happiness, but you can't control fear and anger. I mean, you can't control fear and nervousness, so you're just doomed. Guess it's going to be the end of the video just about here in a few minutes, so that's pretty much it. Enjoy. I don't know, maybe learn something. I don't know. I really didn't learn anything from making this, so yeah. Have fun with that. Fruit salad, yummy yummy.